Hey everyone, it's Jeannie and I'm back to share this really bright, colorful card featuring Rubbernecker's Hugs Your Way stamp set. And I show the wood grain background stamp, but I don't use it for my card. I kind of struggled with what I wanted to do with this main card when I first started because this floral is rather large and it can take the focal point of a card, but I decided that I wanted to use it in a different way and create a frame with the florals. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp one of them in the corner. I'll flip it around in my MISTI and then stamp the other corner, and this way it's all symmetrical. And this is also another reason I love my MISTI, because I'm able to do things like this and I can be super precise. For my other corner, I kind of move the floral so it's showing off a part that you don't see on the other flowers. Doing the same thing, stamping, flipping it around, and then stamping it again, and this way I have a very symmetrical floral frame. Then I'll move on to my coloring, which I will not show all of it because it's almost the same for all of the flower image, and I didn't think that it'd be worth sharing everything. But my coloring is very similar to all my other coloring. I usually use 3 colors. When I color an area, I go in with my darkest color, then go in with my medium color, leaving white highlight, and then using the lightest color to fill up that space. For this image itself, it's already super detailed. It's really cool because it helps when you are just starting out coloring and you have these details and you can follow along to know exactly where you want the shadows to be. And that's exactly what I did. I did that with the leaves, where I would put the darkest shade along the lines of the leaves, and then I would just, bring in my second color, blend it out a little bit, leaving a bit of white, and then coloring the rest with that light color. I'm doing the same with this floral, except with the flower, I am leaving a bit of more white space because I really want that highlight. I really want it to look round, and the highlight will go in the middle of the petal, and that'll just kind of make it pop. Like I said, this image has a ton of those lines, and you can just use your darkest color to trace those lines, and then you can use your second color, blend it out, and then use your lightest color to really blend it more. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I chose to do 2 different colors for the flowers. So the interior of the flower, it's kind of a darker red, fading out to a pink, and then the edges will be a purple, fading out to white. So as I'm leaving that white space there, it just makes the floral look more round because the darker area is right in the middle, so it looks more sunken. And then the edges of the petals where it makes it look more curved. So it's a cool trick, and usually I use a really light Copic color to do that fade out to white, and I use a lot of the flicking motion. So that's why I turn my paper so much, because of that, because I like to flick upwards versus towards me, and I think that makes it easier. So I do turn my paper a lot, especially with these types of detailed images, because I am following those lines and I'm just making sure that everything blends out nicely. The biggest problem with me with coloring when I first started was being able to blend out to white or leaving a white highlight, because it looks like you want to color in the entire area, but if you leave it with a very subtle white space, it just adds to the highlight. And I always have to remind myself to do that, because that's not something that comes natural, because I want to color up the entire space. So once I finished coloring all the florals, I did something a little different with the second floral that's kind of peeking behind the purple floral. I just used pink, but the same techniques of flicking out and following those lines. And then I'll go ahead and pick a bunch of blue colors for the rest of the background. I didn't want to leave it completely white, so I decided to go in and highlight around the florals with my darkest blue, which I believe is a B4, and then I'll go in with a B2 just to kind of blend it out, and I left a little bit of space, and then I'll go in with my lightest color, which is a B00. And this doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be super perfect or anything, because my sentiment will be right in the middle. I actually took this panel and trimmed it down on the sides of it just by a 1/4 inch, and this is because I love matting my cards, so I like having it either completely matted or 2 sides kind of peeking out with a different color, and I always use black. So for my sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and stamp and heat emboss in white on black cardstock, and this will be going right in the middle. This is my go-to. I love white embossing powder on black cardstock because it just pops, it stands out, and also sometimes when I stamp things directly onto my card panel, there's always some distracting factor in it. It's not as easy to see some sentiments, and so this is definitely my go-to sentiment combo choice. It's always on black. So I'm just adding double-sided adhesive to my sentiment, and then I'm going to put this all together. I'm also going to add double-sided adhesive to the back of my card panel because I will be matting it. And my best trick for doing this, there's two ways. Usually I will remove all the adhesive and use my Mystique to line it up so everything's straight, which is what I'm doing here, or I will remove the adhesive partly and then kind of place it over my panel that I want to put it down on, make sure everything's straight, and then like release all the paper. But my Misty is such a useful tool to help me make sure that everything is lined up when I am matting my cards. I'm using my Misty T ruler to add my sentiment. I'm just placing it in the middle, and because it's symmetrical, you can kind of eyeball it and make sure that it's right in the middle. That's it for this card. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye!